Commissioner, it's been a long time since we've had you on our County Chronicle show. The voters have decided to send you back to represent District 8. Congratulations.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate it. It has been a while, and during the time where we're running, we stay off the airwaves in terms of not being a competitive advantage against our opponents. So it's a pleasure to be back and talk to some of your viewers.
Your three colleagues also were reelected too, so you have the same commission, the same team going into 2013.
And I think that's great. We've got a good commission. We're united in a lot of issues. We have differences of opinions, which is a positive thing. I think that creates great discussions and a great banter back and forth about ideas and to bring the ideas to the forefront. But in the end, we seem to unite and come together on the important issues and hopefully all do the right thing.
Certainly one of the most pressing and important issues this year, last year, every year is University Medical Center. There's some mechanics and some things that are going to go on in the legislature and even before that. Maybe just kind of bring our viewers up to date as to what's going on.
Right. We're looking at a potential change in governance structure at UMC. What we've got right now is a hospital. It's a public hospital. It's our safety net hospital in Clark County for those who are either uninsured or underinsured and have to have a place to go, and that UMC provides services for a lot of people. Unfortunately, the problem at UMC is the payer mix. We get a lot of uninsured and underinsured, but don't get a lot of full-paying insurance people that offset some of those costs. So UMC operates at a significant deficit every year, which has become more and more difficult for the county to make up that amount of money that's necessary to keep UMC open. So one of the things we've looked at is a governance change. In order to do that, it would have to come through the legislature. So there's a deadline when the bill draft has to be submitted. It's the middle of December to get it into the legislature, to have them draft a bill that would then be presented to the legislature in February of next year. And whether it's going to move forward or not is a long, arduous process.
And so then this would become an independent board, or how would these folks fit into the hierarchy?
It would become a board that was independent but appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, and the county commissioners would retain oversight in terms of the finances, the audit availability, but get people with a little bit more expertise in terms of running a hospital. We run a lot of different functions here, including an airport and court system and family services and social services, but hospitals are a really unique animal in terms of what's necessary. You've got reimbursement on Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. You've got a tremendous amount of purchasing contracts, both for supplies and for doctor-vendor contracts that you've got. So a tremendous amount of expertise is involved in the running of a hospital. And it was hopeful that we could bring some people on that could provide a little more expertise than a Board of County Commissioners with our diverse, even though we have a diverse, solid background, we can't provide.
What is this going to mean to the people that visit UMC, the patients?
Hopefully nothing. The hope is that this would help UMC flourish, that we'd be able to get a little bit more revenue. People are not as likely to give to a county hospital in terms of philanthropic effort, because they figure, okay, I pay taxes already, why should I contribute to that? A lot of times when you're taking a private hospital private, you have the philanthropic side where you can attempt to raise private monies, philanthropic donations, to help the hospital survive and to expand and to flourish. That's the hope this would happen. It would hopefully not affect services at all, would not affect the employees, the delivery services at all. There would be a positive as opposed to a negative opportunity as a result of this.
And the employees, there seems to be some people in the union that are a little bit concerned about the employees there. You say to that, sir?
There's a lot of concern, some of the employees. I think a lot of it is misinformation. The way it's been explained to me is everybody would stay at UMC. Now, would there be in the future some adjustment? Certainly there could be an adjustment, as is the case currently with their collective bargaining agreement that they have with the county. Those are subject to renegotiation every time the contract comes up. The same would be true for the employees at UMC under whatever structure it's under. That would always be open to the collective bargaining process that exists for our employees.
And what's your opinion of this right now? How, as we sit here today, how would you like this to go?
Well, I would like there's certain advantages and disadvantages both sides of this. I'm a big advocate of transparency and openness. At the same time, it puts UMC at a competitive disadvantage. Since all of the meetings are done in public, whenever they get together, if someone has an idea that needs to be brought forward, the competitors are sitting in the audience hearing this idea. If it's a private hospital, they don't have that same concern. They can talk openly and freely about plans, about ideas, about projects moving forward. When UMC does that, as in a meeting we might have in the chambers, the folks from Valley Hospital or the St. Rose Network or Sunrise Hospital or any of those could technically be there listening to what they are, and they can act a lot quicker than we can as a governmental hospital. So that puts them at a disadvantage, UMC, as far as I'm concerned. But the contractual things, the financial obligations that currently exist, it's very important to me that those stay public, that the public have the right to look at how money is being spent. Because in the past, unfortunately, UMC did have some issues with the awarding of contracts, and we need to do everything we can to maintain and restore whatever trust exists at UMC.
Give us a timeline on what we can expect to see next.
Well, my understanding is that the bill draft has to be submitted to the Legislative Council Bureau by the middle of December 15th, and then it's drafted. The legislature convenes in February. It's a 120-day session, so they would go through the bill, whatever is proposed, if in fact we move forward with this, and that hasn't been decided yet, whether or not the commission will do that. Whether or not we move forward with this or not, the legislature would then get it if we did decide to move forward with it, and they'd have an opportunity to make their adjustments or input on it, and whether or not they pass it would be up to them.
As we head into 2013, another big budget that yourself as well as the City Council are going to have to wrestle with is Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's budget. Commissioner, you say it's going to be a long, hard, difficult battle, and we're going to have to do a lot more with a lot less. Now, I know you have the utmost respect for Sheriff Gillespie and the men and women at Metro. What's the issues here? What do we need to look out for?
Well, the issues, what we've happened is Metro's got a budget a little over $500 million. What the sheriff has been able to do in the last two sessions, last two fiscal years, because I do sit on fiscal affairs with Commissioner Brown, is we've balanced the Metro budget. There's a contribution comes from the city, a contribution comes from the county, and what the sheriff did in terms of getting to the difference was he used his reserve funds for 2 years in order to be able to balance that budget. Well, now we spent the reserves down to next to nothing. I think they're at $5 million, $6 million. They were at close to $70 or $80 million when we went into this. So over this 2 or 3 year period, he spent these reserves all the way down. Well, now those reserves don't exist to balance it. So the sheriff is looking to maintain his budget, is going to take a significant increase in the contributions from both the city and the county, combined somewhere in the tune of $42 million.
Commissioner, voters approved a half-cent sales tax in 2004. Half of that was triggered by the legislature the next year, but there's still another quarter cent. What has happened to that?
The quarter-cent tax increase did pass. It allowed for a second quarter cent, which he'd have to get approval from the legislature. And the sheriff might go to Carson City. He had talked about going to Carson City and asking for enabling language to bring back and have the commission vote to increase the sales tax by a quarter% additionally over what it is today, in order to fund more cops. But the more cops money cannot supplant money that's currently at Metro. It can't be used to balance the budget. It would have to be used over and above that to put more police officers on the street.
Something else that has been in the news, Commissioner, is the coroner's inquest. Obviously, there's been a backlog of those, and then now recently the Nevada Supreme Court has struck down portions of the inquest changes that you and your colleagues have made. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the coroner's inquest, we spent a long time trying to redevelop the coroner's interest. We passed a new ordinance, and the Supreme Court was challenged by the PPA, the Police Protective Association, on several grounds, due process and some of the other things. And the Supreme Court did strike down one provision of it that dealt with who would be basically the overseer or the hearing officer as it related to the inquest. Well, when you struck that down, it basically gutted the whole inquest. I mean, that person there has to be someone who's basically in charge of the inquest moving forward. Now, whether that's a justice of the peace, a magistrate, a hearing officer, that could be changed. Now, there's some appetite to look at the entire ordinance again, because in meeting with the PPA and the sheriff, they insist that their officers will not participate in an adversarial process. And I've always been a proponent of, there were only two people that absolutely know what happened at the time. One is the decedent, and one is the officer that did the shooting. And if neither one of them are going to be able to participate, obviously the victim is dead, can't speak, and the officer who's going to invoke the fifth or refuse to participate, I don't know how much fact-finding we're really going to do. The inquest is not meant to be a finding of guilt or a finding of responsibility. It's meant strictly to be a fact-finding process, and I think we need to focus on that and what is the best way to arrive at the facts that are necessary to move forward.
And is this going to happen sooner rather than later, do you think?
It's going to happen in December. The commission, we had a discussion about it meeting before last. We're going to have another discussion, the first meeting in December, in terms of how we would attempt to adjust or tweak the ordinance if that's what we want to do, or if we want to try to start over in terms of how to address the ordinance. There are a significant number. There were 20 some odd, or about 20 shootings that were backlogged in the inquest process. Now the DA has issued some letters that were his opinion of some of those. I don't think that those stand in lieu of an inquest. I mean, those aren't really fact-finding. Those are just his opinion of whether or not he wanted to prosecute some. That's nowhere near enough for a lot of the citizens that have contacted me, the fact that he posted a letter on the internet. I think we need a little more than that, and hopefully we'll come up with a process that'll be able to bring some closure to everybody involved, both the families and the officers and their families that were involved.
Commissioner, I know in this last fall you had a chance to be at the grand opening of the Frias Park,
Yeah.
fantastic park out there at Tropicana and Decatur. Flood protection and recreation, fantastic facility.
It's an absolutely incredible facility, and for those viewers who have not seen it yet, I encourage them to get out there. Everything is out there. There's some basketball courts, tennis courts, a horseshoe pit. There's a huge walking trail down below. There's some grass open fields where you can toss a football or kick a soccer ball around, and picnic areas. I mean, the park offers absolutely everything, and it worked extremely well. The flood control part did when we had our last severe rains a little bit ago, and it worked exactly as designed, which is very, very encouraging. It's a combination of the public and the private sector come together. We're very thankful to the Frias family for having stepped up and donating a significant amount of money to the park and making it a possibility. And being it's in my district, I'm really excited about it. You took what was really an eyesore for a long, long time and made it a beautiful amenity that an awful lot of people. I spoke at the JC Senior Mobile Home Park, you know, right down the street on Jones, and a lot of those folks were just ecstatic about it being there. We've had the opportunity to head down there and to go for their morning walks down there, and I think it's going to be utilized a tremendous amount. It's a beautiful facility.
It does beg one question. As you said, the Frias family kicked in a very significant amount of money. Is the time come now to maybe seek out these sponsorships for facilities such as this one to help the county budget go a little bit further?
I think that that's what we have to do. I mean, we've already spoken about, you know, there's a shortfall at UMC, there's a shortfall at Metro, there's a shortfall all over the county, and when we have an opportunity to have the philanthropic side step up and make contributions to something like a park, we just can't do it without that. We just can't do it without it at this point. We're not getting the revenues that we just did, that we did years past. It's going to take a long time for the property tax base to rebound to the extent where we got the revenue that we were receiving 8 years ago. They fell, properties, you know, decreased 50, 60%. And, you know, with the property tax cap in place, it's going to take a long, long way to go back to where they were when they're only going up 4% a year.
Well, I'm sure we'll see you out there pitching horseshoes there at West Flamingo. It even says on your wall, horseshoe champ.
It does, yeah. Commissioner Breger and I had a fun little match and promised for a rematch, so we got to get out there and do it again. But I encourage everybody to see the park. It's got so much to offer. It's got a splash pad for the kids. I got a chance to play on the splash pad with some of the younger kids, and it was really, I had the time of my life out there. I was a kid at heart again. It was fun.
Season's greetings. Thanks for spending some time with us,
Thank you
Commissioner.
very much. I appreciate your time, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody.